Okay, so at this point we've got our sheet metal tray laid out. You know, I went ahead and I did mine with marker, just so it's easier for you guys to see. You know, obviously we don't want to use markers because it's going to end up and make a line that's too wide. We won't know exactly where our folds have to be. It's just going to cause problems later on. So before you start cutting anything, we need to mark what is going to be taken away. That way we don't accidentally cut off tabs or anything that we need, you know, to complete this. So we're just going to go through and we're going to put little X's in the areas that are going to be gone. That way we know what we're cutting out and we don't have any mistakes. Some of this is going to be pretty straightforward. It's really not that difficult. We'll be able to cut out majority of it with a hand shear. That'll, you know, take out a large piece of it at once, and we'll have to do a little bit with the tin snips that I have right here. You know, so it doesn't really take that long to do this. You know, so I'm going to try to do it all right now with you guys on camera. You know, we got to keep in mind too, the sheet metal is extremely sharp. You know, so we need to make sure that we are being careful and we're not, you know, sliding our fingers along the edge of it. You know, that definitely will cut your hands because it is a very, very, very sharp. So we're looking at a corner notcher. The corner notcher just does a couple quick cuts for us here. Basically what you've got a large blade across the bottom that is at 90 degrees. So, you know, we've got a cutting edge right here and it goes back the other side as well. This is sharp enough to cut steel, so it will definitely cut your fingers if you have your fingers underneath there. So you need to be paying attention to what you're doing. It's only to be cutting sheet metal, so only the material that we have, guys. It's not meant to do anything heavier than that. So we're just going to simply, you know, put our part in there. We're going to line it up with our line that we have marked out. You can kind of bring this down a little bit closer so you can see, okay, is it going to actually cut where I want it to? And then once you get it where you want it, you can bring it down. You know, it cuts that entire corner off. We do have some more that we can do, but, you know, this takes a large chunk of it off. So I would go around and I would do all the corners. This way, I would not jump back and forth between one little thing and the next little thing. It's going to get confusing. You're going to make a mistake. So, you know, do all four corners. You do one feature on each corner all the way around, and then do another feature on the corner. So again, you know, take your time, line it up. Just bring the handle down all the way. Your piece will fall out through the bottom. I've got a bucket that hangs below, so all the scrap pieces just fall into that bucket below. So we don't have anything really to clean up here. You know, it should all just fall down into that bucket. So now we're looking at this, and we've got, you know, a little bit, you know, up here that we've got to cut out. We can use our corner notcher for, you know, some of it to get like that 90 degree, but we're going to have a tiny little triangle right here that we're going to have to cut out by hand. So again, just kind of, you know, line that thing up, bring it down, make sure it's still lined up, and, you know, cut that out, and it cut a perfect 9 degree right there, which is what we want. You know, we'll just repeat that process to do the rest of them. The next thing we'd have to do is to get our tin snips, and we have to cut in, you know, to that point right there. Just cut that tiny little 1/2 inch triangle out, so we can just simply cut into that intersection point, go to the other side, and we'll cut that off of this little tab feature that we've got laid out. And again, you know, it's sheet metal, it's crazy sharp. You know, so we want to do that for all four corners. So we have, you know, this shape right here. That way you can see that better. You know, what we've cut out. You know, once we get all four corners cut out to this section, you know, we're ready to move on. Okay, so right here, this is going to be the second step after the corner notcher. This is called a bar folder. What the bar folder does for us, when we were doing our cardboard ones, remember we had like the outside edges that had to be folded over flat. The bar folder will do that for us. This tool is really a pretty handy little tool, makes the job go very, very quickly. As we get set up here, I want to point down at the machine itself. There is like a little gauge right here. Our tabs that we have, our hems that we have are 1/2 inch. So we can just simply, turn the dial here to get it to a 1/2 inch, which it should be set at this all the time, but it's possible somebody could have changed it. So, double check that to make sure it is at a 1/2 inch. Okay, so after we have our dial set to a 1/2 inch, or double check to make sure it's set to 1/2 inch, when you go to put your piece in the machine, it's actually got little stops here. So like we set it to a 1/2 inch on the dial, that only allows the part to go in a 1/2 inch. So there's a little stops. They're probably about every 3 inches apart, 2 inches apart. So we want to try to make sure that we're on 2 of them if we can. Otherwise, you can get that kind of situation going on where obviously that's not right. So right there, I'm on 2 of them. I've got it slid in all the way as far as I can go. We're just going to go ahead and pull the handle. It does take quite a bit of force to bring this thing up. So I'm going to pull the handle, bring this guy down until it collapses there. Loosen the handle back up, bring it back down. So what it's going to do for us, it's only going to make this little cut right here, or this little fold, this little fold. Again, should be a 1/2 inch. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to set it on top of like this slanted surface right here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring this handle back up towards us again, and basically we're just squashing that in between 2 different surfaces here to get that part squeezed down. Kind of have to hold it in there, so we're just kind of squeezing that down. And then you can see that we've made, a really tight fold. So it's as flat as can be. That gets rid of that sharp edge along the corner. So we just go around and we do this to all 4 sides. Whenever it comes to sheet metal stuff, you want to start on the outside, and generally you're working your way in. So again, I'm going to grab a hold of the handle. Going to bring this guy up all the way until it stops. Fold it back down, and then set it on the angled surface there, and I'm just going to squish it. So I actually turned it over from the way it was in there. Got a couple more here. I'll just run through those real quickly. Again, the part that's already folded over is here at the top already. This is folded in. That's the seam right there, or the edge right there. That's the edge right there. So I've got it slid in all the way. Bring up my handle, down all the way, lower it down. I'll take my part out, going to flip it over, and then I'm going to crush it there on that sloped surface. So we'll do that all the way around. So we did that all the way around. Our next step is going to be, we have to bend these tabs up. To do that, we're actually going to bend this spot, and this spot all at the same time. So we're going to move over now to a box break, and we'll show you that process. Okay, so we're at the box break now. Again, we're going to do the long one first. So, as you bring the handle up, that's going to be able to create a fold. We'd put our part inside here. You line it up with that edge. We get that clamped down, and then we just simply, raise the handle up, until we get that 90 degree. You probably really need to go a little bit further than 90. you know, just to make sure that we get it, because steel has a tendency to kind of spring back a little bit. So you want to go just a touch further than 90. No, not all the way. Definitely do not want to take it all the way as far as it'll go. But, you know, something like there is probably pretty good. Let up. You know, and then we can look at it at this point and say, you know, okay, does that look like 90 degrees? You know, yes it does. So we're ready to move on. And there is some flexibility there too. So if it's not perfect, you know, we can kind of muscle it to where we need it to be. So again, we're doing the other side now. Get it in there, get it clamped down, fold that guy up. Again, it's important that you do the long side first. We have to be able to do the tab, the long length, and then the other tab first. Now to do the other side, what we will do is we're going to do this. We'll put it in there and do it that way. But you know, one thing here first here before we move on to that. The first step before we move on to the ends, I've got a tool just called a hand brake. Just allows us to bend some of these smaller pieces, features that we can't get into the machines. We're going to take our hand brake, reach in there, slide it in all the way. We're going to squeeze down and we're going to bend that tab in just a little bit more. And we'll go around and we'll do that to the other ones as well. I'm not going a lot, just a little bit. So we've got that process done. Now we're ready to go back to our box brake here. We're gonna do our short ends. Kind of the same process as what we did before. You know, line it up with your line where you want it, clamp it down. And then we can lift this up. Now we need to be careful that we don't just like fold up corners here. So you gotta, sometimes it takes a little bit of finesse to get it to bend where you want it to bend, so that tab goes inside. You know, because if you just grab it and bring the handle up, there's a good shot that tab is just gonna come in contact with the other tab, and that's not going to be a good looking part, because you're going to bend that material up. So again, we'll get it lined up here with our edge, clamp it down. We'll slowly pick up on it. You may have to pull out on your sides a little bit to make that happen here, and fold that guy up. You do not want to go any further than like what this is, because you can take the handle up further, but what'll happen is you'll end up and you'll crush the corner down here, because you'll actually put enough leverage on it. You'll kind of fold the metal up on that surface. We're trying to make good parts, so we need to make sure we try to do things right. So right here we've got it pretty well made. We're looking at it. We've got our tabs on the inside. Our corners aren't quite folded up, but when we would put this together, we just push on that a little bit. We could bring that together, to put our pop rivet in there to hold this thing together. So just the fact that it's got that little bit, that's not that big a deal. We can just kind of squeeze our box when we put the pop rivet, when we drill to put the pop rivet in, and everything is going to work out. But you'll end up with a little tray. We'll put a pop rivet on each corner. I'll go through that process with you in the shop as you get to it.